It is the hidden side of everything. How are you, man?
Hello, Raha. Awesome.
Hey, I'm great.
Just what is Freakonomics experiments?
Freakonomics experiments is a set of simple experiments about complex issues, whether to break up with your significant other, quit your job, or start a diet, just to name a few.
And I bet you just can't wait to see the new unemployment numbers on Friday. That's kind of like catnip for you.
Come on, I looked at it stuff.
Let me say this, whatever the number is, say on Friday, the general picture is pretty clear, which is unemployment remaining relatively high.
Everyone had a pet theory, but I'm here to tell you today about a trio of economists who have new research paper out with a pretty interesting angle to explain the unemployment.
That would be fun.
Okay, that's on average. The more education you get, the better you do in the labor market. There's no question about that, right?
Yeah, it's ROE, baby. It's return on education, much like return on investment. Exactly right. And that's thought to be especially true for what are called knowledge workers, or people who primarily use their brains for their job, and managers and tech jobs, thing like that. But one author of this new paper's name is Paul Badri. Look at 30 years worth of hiring data, and he found that demand for knowledge workers actually stopped growing quite a while ago. But then you start noticing it's plateaued in 2000, even though more and more people are getting educated. It should have kept on going.
So Amir, 2000 was like 19 years ago, right? That's before the recession. The whole deal, what happened?
Well, what happened is the tech boom. In the 1990s, the tech boom led to much higher demand for knowledge workers. So more and more people started getting the appropriate college degrees. But in 2000, remember, we had the tech bust, which meant that demand for knowledge jobs fell fast. Baudry and his colleagues actually call it the Great Reversal.
So wait, Amir, let me try this one more time. 2000 was 19 years ago. Man, make this make sense in the unemployment situation today.
But here's the thing. All those highly educated workers who educated themselves up from what was supposed to be the everlasting tech boom, they didn't get jobs that they fought for. But those workers don't go away either, okay? And then there are new graduates in the pipeline every year, but there still aren't enough high-end jobs to suit them. So what happens? Well, here's Faham again.
These educated people aren't getting their jobs in that sector. They must be pushing down. And that's when we started noticing all this cascading. I wouldn't want to kind of exaggerate it. It's not like everyone's kind of getting a barista job, but that's exactly the feeling, is kind of like this pushing down.
So that's a pretty word he uses. Cascading, to describe a pretty ugly effect. Too many highly educated workers aren't able to find the jobs they're expecting. And as a result, they're getting shoved down the labor ladder a couple of rungs. Here's a fella named Clayton Thomas. He's a software consultant in Salt Lake City. When he graduated from Duke a few years back, he studied life sciences. He was expecting to have no trouble finding a good research job.
And I went to job fairs where I would discuss openings with companies, and I found that I was competing with people that had master's degrees, even PhDs, for basically entry-level positions, which was pretty scary.
All right, so Faham, what's that saying? I heard it. They service a lot of stuff, shall we say? Rolls downhill, right? I mean, what happens to the people on the bottom rungs of those ladders then?
Exactly right, Raha. As the top pushes the middle pushes the bottom, the crowding at the top pushes everybody down. But let me say on the top firm, as much as we hear about needing to educate more STEM workers, STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. There's another new research paper out which argues that there is, in fact, no shortage of STEM work, is that only half of US STEM graduates end up with a STEM job already.
This is the most depressing thing. There must be a silver lining here. You've got to hit me up with that.
Let me try. If you go back several decades, you'll find that a huge share of the college-educated women in the U.S. labor force worked as school teachers, right? So, even though the job didn't pay that well, a lot of the best and brightest women in the country were teachers because they didn't have as many opportunities as they do now. When the feminist revolution opened up those opportunities, it was great news for women who became doctors and lawyers and radio show hosts on and on.
That's right.
But bad news for a classroom. Well, what do you think of this idea?
Is this the hidden side? Is that where we're going?
So in this cascading that we're seeing now, with the top pushing down, what it means is that it might be good news for a field like education because more and more highly educated people, women and men, could end up working as, say, teachers or elsewhere in education.
Yeah.
So this year, for instance, Teach for America, which recruits from elite college campuses, had the most applications in its 20-year history. It accepted only 17% of the applicants, which means that on some campuses it's almost as hard to get into Teach for America as it was to get into college itself. So selectively is any measure that means that the core of potential teachers at least is drawn from a very, very talented pool.
Wow.
Alright, I think we could say silver lining found here.
Thanks, everyone. It was super informative.